Alright everyone, welcome back to the Dojo course 2. So today we will take care about the basic development stuff. So we'll start with developing custom extensions. Now, as mentioned before probably, there are two kinds of Orchard extensions. That means plugins. Just extension is the Orchard term. One are modules and the others are themes. Now, themes are probably the bit easier ones, and also themes are basically needed all the time for every website. You don't necessarily need custom module development for every website, but you definitely need some good theme, probably customize a bit, even if not built from the ground up, for every website out there. So we will start with theme development. Now, themes are those kind of extensions that care about the website's styling and HTML structure. So basically, themes are extensions that, well, most of the time contain CSS, HTML, JavaScript, and other static assets. So we will first take a look at the existing themes and just to get an understanding of how they are structured, and then we will create our own theme with the command line, which will be another new topic today. So let's see. Here in Visual Studio is the Orchard solution that we have already seen last time, and we also have already seen that there is a themes folder, a solution folder, and inside that we also have a themes project. Now, first things first, there can be two ways to, well, structure or publish themes. One of the ways is to just add them to this existing themes project. This is not something we usually do, because that means that we would modify this built-in themes project, and we don't really want to modify anything that's built into Orchard. We always override and extend, but rather we create our own themes project, but that will be the next step. Apart from this distinction, themes, whether they are in their own project or are part of this themes project, are basically the same. And here we have the theme machine theme, which is, well, the built-in theme. And if we start the application, that's the theme that we already know and that we always see after a fresh setup. The theme machine is something quite basic. It's a theme to get you started, basically not much more. But now it's loading a bit slow. Anyway, we won't wait for that. So what's in a theme? As mentioned, basically JavaScript, CSS, and HTML. Here in the theme machine, we don't have JavaScript files, but we have that in the admin theme, which drives the admin area. And as you can see, JavaScript files are in the scripts folder. Now, CSS files are in the styles folder, so that we also have in the theme machine. These folders are the basic defaults. If you want to just put some scripts and CSS files in your themes, just create similar scripts and styles folders. But scripts and CSS files, or any files for that matter, can be anywhere, not just in these two folders. But those two folders give you kind of a good default. Remember that we are in ASP.NET land. So Orchard is an ASP.NET web application. It is being run via the IIS web server, or IIS Express, which is well, the development version of it. Now, this means that we need to instruct IIS sometimes. And these web config files that we have in the styles folder or in the scripts folder of the admin theme are instructing IIS to serve script and CSS files from these folders. So be sure to also add such web config files. You can just copy from existing themes, like the built-in ones, because without these, the files won't be accessible from the outside. And we also have a views folder in the theme. Here we have the HTML files, the templates, but those are not just simple HTML files, but as you can see, CS HTML files. CS HTML files are templates written in the Razor templating language. Razor is a very convenient templating language. It's basically C#'s form, but a bit syntactic sugars for being able to better use them inside HTML files. So it's almost exactly like C# with some specialties built in. And if you take a look at this badge of honor file here, as you can see, it's pretty simple. I will just make it a bit more structured so we can see everything here. Here we have this powered by message, and probably this will already tell you what this template is doing. Because if you take a look at the website, and this is just the same thing following up that we have created last time, you see that at the bottom we have this powered by Orchard message, and by the way also a copyright message from the theme machine. This is added by this template. So on the example of this template we can see some very basic Razor, but not much happens here. We just have a code block on the top of the file just to get a clock to be able to output the current here, and then we have some spans with labels written to the user interface. Now we will get into how to write templates a bit later, but just to begin with, under the views folder we have all the templates which are Css Html templates. If you are not familiar with the ins and outs of Css Html, well, we will cover some of the basics during the course as we go, but feel free to read a bit more. A few other things that are quite specific to Orchard, because the views folder is basically just ASP.NET MVC, so pretty much the same as in any ASP.NET MVC application. Styles and scripts folder, quite similar as well. But we also have some other files here. Now let's start with the theme.txt. The theme.txt file is what we call a theme manifest. It basically describes what the theme is capable of. It's a basic metadata file for the theme. Once we create our first theme, we'll look into this in detail. There is also a theme.png. Let's take a look at it. Now, if you have a theme.png file in your theme, then that will be automatically pulled in by Orchard and displayed nowhere on the theme screen. So this is just a screenshot of how the theme looks. And adding such a theme.png is optional. But if you add one, if we go to the dashboard, we will see that it's displayed there. So if you open the themes dashboard here, you see that here we have this picture. Now this is driven by the theme.png. And by the way, part of the theme.txt is displayed here, like the name or the authors. We also have a placement.info file. Now this is something quite curious. This is a descriptor file where you can instruct Orchard's layout engine on how to order things on the layout, but we'll get into that later a bit. And we also have a themezone preview.png file, which similarly to the theme.png file is automatically displayed by Orchard if it exists, but not on the themes page, but rather under the widgets page. So you see this little map of all the zones that we have where you can put widgets. This comes from the theme zones preview image. So that's good for now. These are the building blocks of a theme. Let's go and actually create one. Alright, to create a theme, well, you have multiple options. Since you may want to create a theme that has a project file, you could just right-click and create a CS proj, but that would need some manual scaffolding. So instead what we will do is that we will use the command line of Orchard, because Orchard does have a command line. So let's close this and let's open the Orchard command line, which will be a file called orchard.exe. If you open the web project, so just right click here and open folder in File Explorer and open the compiled binaries, we will see that there is an orchard.exe, exe. Not sure about the pronunciation. But let's start it. The Orchard command line is, well, really a command line interface to interact with your Orchard application. So you can do a lot of things from here, even if the browser accessible front end is somehow broken, or you don't want to use it because you want to automate some tasks with command line commands, and then you can use the Orchard command line. And well, one of the features that's actually just available from the command line is what we call command line scaffolding, which is some basic code generation to create module and theme projects, and also, by the way, module test projects for automated tests. So we will now use the command line, but or the code generation command. But to be able to use it, first we will need to enable the feature that actually provides it. And we can enable features like feature enable, and then comes the feature name, which in case is orchard.codes. I will need to check, sorry. Orchard.cogeneration. Well, that should have been an easy guess. So this is the command we have to run. Obviously, feature enable is not just for code generation, but you can enable any feature in Orchard. Remember that we talked about how to enable features of modules from the modules dashboard on the admin. Now this does exactly the same. So feature enable orchard.cogeneration is exactly the same than going to the modules page here on the admin and, well, enabling the cogeneration feature here. But since we are developers, we always want to use the keyboard, not the mouse and the UI as normal users, because this is what makes us special, or makes us feel special. So if everything goes right, you should see code generation was enabled, which is good, because otherwise I wouldn't be sure how to solve that. And now that we have the code generation feature enabled, we can actually utilize the code generation command. Well, the code generation command is pretty simple as well. It's codegen module to start with. Codegen theme for themes. Well, codegen module would be the command for modules. And then we need to provide the name of our theme. Since this is the second Dojo course, let's call it Dojo course 2.theme. So that's the basic syntax of the command. And furthermore, there are also switches for this command. But before telling you that, let me also tell you a trick. Well, you can always use the help to find out what specific commands are, or what specific commands are capable of doing, so what switches are, for example. But as a sneak peek into the developer experience of Orchard, let's take a look at the code generation module, and let's see whether we can find out what the command can do by looking at the code. Because what we see here in the Cogeneration Commands class is the complete implementation of the Cogeneration Commands. So you can implement such commands in Orchard by writing a similar class. If you take a look at the class's body, you can see that there is an include in solution switch, and then there is a create project switch. Now the create project switch is just interesting for themes. Remember I said that you can create themes with their own projects, or you can add them to the themes projects. Now this time we will create a separate project for the theme. The include in solution switch, and you can see it's a switch because there is the Orchard switch attribute. The include in solution switch, well, will, if set to true, will include the newly created extension project in the orchard.sln solution. So we actually won't use that because we have our own solution file that we created on very early on. And just for themes, we can also add a based on a theme manifest attribute. We will see what that does later. And by the way, if you scroll down, here are the actual implementations of the commands. Feel free to look at them, but we won't cover this here. So let's get back here. And now what we will do is that we will create a project, but we won't include it in the solution. Oops. So that will be false. And if everything goes right, this should create our theme. And hopefully it indeed happened.